The jungle of Valaris was alive with color and sound. Giant glowing plants reached high into the sky, and vines hung like natural ropes from the massive trees. Birds with silver feathers darted through the branches, and strange insects with translucent wings hummed in the heavy, humid air. Amid all this, the palace of Queen Lyra rose like a fortress, its black spires twisting toward the sky. It was a palace that spoke of power, of fear, and of stories whispered across galaxies. Inside the palace, Queen Lyra sat on her throne, her golden crown shining under the alien sun filtering through the grand windows. Her face, usually calm and commanding, was tense. Something had happened, something she could not immediately control. Her daughters, Seren and Mira, had vanished. The news had reached her just moments ago, and her sharp mind raced. Seren and Mira were not ordinary children. Even at a young age, they showed the strength and intelligence of fully grown warriors. Their training was strict, designed to prepare them to rule one day. Yet here they were, gone, with no trace of where they might have gone. How could this happen? Lyra whispered, almost to herself. Her voice was low but filled with urgency. Around her, her advisors and guards exchanged nervous glances. In Valarian culture, losing the royal daughters was a serious matter. It was not just a family problem. It could be seen as a weakness of the throne. Lyra stood abruptly. Her long cloak flowed behind her like liquid gold in the dim light. She moved through the hallways with her usual grace, but her mind was elsewhere. She needed answers. And fast. Meanwhile, far from the palace, the human colony on the edge of the jungle was quiet. Captain Ethan Drake, a human soldier, walked through the thick undergrowth with careful steps. His boots crushed leaves softly, and his eyes scanned the jungle constantly. He had been sent to patrol this region, a routine job, or at least it had started that way. Ethan had always been cautious, trained to notice the smallest movements, the faintest sounds. This part of the jungle was dangerous, not because of humans, but because of the wild creatures that called Valaris home. He had already learned to respect the predators, to give them space, and to stay alert. Suddenly he froze. A soft rustle came from above like the whisper of wings. He crouched and stayed perfectly still. For a moment there was nothing. Then he heard it again. A small, delicate sound, almost like a child's cry, but unlike any human cry he had ever heard. Ethan's curiosity and instinct kicked in. He moved silently toward the sound, careful not to alert whatever was hiding. Through the thick foliage he saw two tiny figures, small even by human standards. Their skin was pale with a slight shimmer, and their eyes were large and filled with fear. They were hiding behind a fallen tree, peeking out at him with cautious curiosity. Seren and Mira had crossed into human territory without fully understanding it. The jungle here was unfamiliar, and every shadow seemed dangerous. They were frightened, but their natural curiosity pushed them forward. Their small hands clutched each other's wrists, giving silent courage. Ethan stepped closer, speaking softly, almost as if he were talking to the wind. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The twins exchanged a quick glance. They had been trained to fight, to survive, to trust no one outside their family. Yet, something about this human's calm presence made them pause. His eyes did not hold anger or fear. There was a kindness there, something alien to them in this harsh jungle. Ethan knelt down to be at their level, making no sudden movements. He reached out a hand slowly, showing trust. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "You can come out. I can help." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, a small hand peeked from behind the tree, followed by the other. Seren stepped forward, first her face cautious but curious. Mira followed, still clinging to her sister's hand. Their movements were careful, almost measured, as if testing the human's promise of safety. Ethan smiled gently. "Good. You're safe now." He led them to a small clearing near a stream. the sunlight filtering through the canopy in golden beams. Water bubbled over smooth stones and the air smelled fresh and earthy. The twins looked around, still unsure but beginning to feel the first hints of comfort. Ethan set down his pack and offered them some rations, small fruits native to the human colony. Serene hesitated, then took one, mimicking Mira's cautious bite. Hours passed as Ethan stayed with them, keeping the twins calm and offering simple gestures of kindness. The twins began to relax, realizing this human did not wish them harm. Ethan spoke to them in soft words, his tone steady and soothing. Though they could not fully understand him, the emotion in his voice was clear. That night, the jungle became even more alive. Sounds of creatures calling to each other echoed through the trees. Ethan set up a small camp, careful to keep it safe but without making the twins feel trapped. He built a fire that glowed softly, giving warmth and light without being overwhelming. Serene and Mira watched with wide eyes, fascinated by the dancing flames. As fatigue overtook him, Ethan lay down near the fire, keeping one eye on the twins. They were small and vulnerable, yet something about their presence made him feel responsible. Slowly, almost without thinking, the twins inched closer to him. Seren rested her head lightly on his chest, Mira curling next to her sister. Ethan froze for a moment, but then he relaxed. He understood the silent plea for safety, for warmth, and he accepted it without hesitation. The night deepened. The fire's glow cast shadows across the jungle, and the sounds of the creatures seemed distant and muted. Ethan could feel the gentle rise and fall of the twins' breathing, tiny but steady on his chest. It was an unusual situation, yet there was an odd sense of peace. The human, alone in the vast alien jungle, with two small but remarkable beings, resting on him, felt a quiet strength growing inside him. Far away in the palace of Velaris, Queen Lyra paced endlessly. Her mind was filled with worry, with fear, and with a strange sense of unease she could not name. Her daughters had vanished from the safest place in the galaxy. Whoever had taken them, or wherever they had gone, had done the impossible. Her advisors spoke quickly, suggesting strategies and security measures, but Lyra barely heard them. Her thoughts kept drifting to her daughters, their laughter, their strength, their future. She had always been proud of them, but now pride mixed with dread. Back in the jungle, the night pressed on. Ethan remained still, listening to the jungle, to the twins, and to the quiet beat of his own heart. This encounter, though unexpected, felt like the start of something significant. He did not know it yet, but the twins' presence would change not just his life, but the course of events for humans and Velarians alike. As the fire dwindled to glowing embers, Ethan whispered softly, "Rest now. You're safe." The twins, sensing the truth in his words, curled even closer. The jungle around them, vast and unknown, no longer seemed entirely threatening. For the first time since they had left the palace, they felt the fragile comfort of trust. And so, under the alien stars and the watchful shadows of towering trees, a human and two extraordinary alien children shared a quiet moment. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would test courage, challenge loyalties, and reveal the incredible strength that could arise when beings from different worlds came together. The next morning, sunlight pierced through the thick canopy, scattering golden patterns on the jungle floor. The air was heavy with moisture, and the distant calls of alien birds echoed through the trees. Ethan awoke slowly, feeling the warmth of two small bodies still curled against his chest. Serene and Mira stirred lightly, blinking their large, shimmering eyes at the sudden light. Ethan smiled softly. "Good morning," he whispered. "I hope you slept well." The twins exchanged a glance, their alien instincts still alert but tempered by a growing trust in him. They had spent the night close to a human who, surprisingly, had not tried to capture or harm them. Instead, he had protected them. That simple act of care, so rare in their lives, began to reshape their understanding of the world beyond the palace. "Let's get some food," Ethan said, reaching into his pack. He pulled out more rations and some clean water he had filtered from a nearby stream. Serene took the lead this time, moving closer to him with cautious curiosity. Mira followed her sister, still tense but reassured by their shared courage. The twins' small hands touched the rations with hesitation. Ethan encouraged them gently, showing them how to eat and drink. They copied him slowly, their alien fingers delicate but precise. As they ate, Ethan spoke softly, telling them about his life in the human colony, about the jungle's dangers, and about how he had learned to survive in these conditions. Although the twins could not fully understand his language, the tone of his voice and the calm confidence in his movements conveyed more than words could. They began to relax further, recognizing that this human was reliable and protective. As the morning progressed, Ethan taught the twins small survival skills. He showed them how to identify edible plants, how to avoid dangerous predators, and how to move quietly through the undergrowth. Seren proved bold, eager to learn and mimic Ethan's actions. Mira was cautious, observing more than acting, but she absorbed everything quickly. The twins' natural abilities began to show. They moved with extraordinary agility, climbing small trees and leaping across vines effortlessly. Ethan watched them with admiration. He realized that although they were small, they possessed strength and skill far beyond human children. Yet their vulnerability in this unfamiliar environment reminded him that even extraordinary beings needed guidance and protection. While the morning unfolded peacefully, far away in the Queen's palace, the search for her daughters intensified. Queen Lyra paced her private chambers, her long cloak brushing against the marble floor. The worry in her eyes deepened as she listened to reports from her trackers. Some claimed to have glimpsed small figures in the jungle while others returned empty-handed. The Queen's anger and fear mingled in equal measure. "Where are they?" she demanded. Her voice, usually commanding, trembled slightly with concern. Her advisors tried to assure her that the daughters would be found, but Lyra could sense the urgency. These were not ordinary children. Their absence left a hole in her heart and a weakness in her rule. Back in the jungle, Ethan guided the twins to a small clearing where sunlight created a natural warmth. He pointed out safe spots to rest and warned them of hidden dangers, burrowing creatures that could bite or sting, and flying predators that could strike without warning. Seren and Mira listened intently, their large eyes scanning the environment, learning from him like students in a master class. The twins' curiosity grew. They asked questions, not with words, but with gestures and expressions, pointing to plants, insects, and strange vines. Ethan responded patiently, mimicking their gestures and showing them how to observe safely. This simple exchange built a bridge between species, a foundation of understanding that went beyond language. By midday, Ethan decided to move to a safer location. He knew the jungle near the stream, though beautiful, could be dangerous if predators or enemy scouts approached. He carefully packed their few belongings, making sure the twins were comfortable and not alarmed. Serene held onto his arm tightly, while Mira walked close behind, her trust in him deepening with every step. As they moved through the jungle, the narrative shifts to show the twins' growing attachment to Ethan. They no longer saw him as a stranger. He had become a protector, a guide, and a source of safety in a world that suddenly seemed enormous and threatening. Their small hands brushed against his as they climbed over roots and rocks, and they began to mimic his careful movements. Suddenly, a sound cut through the jungle, a soft rustle followed by a low growl. Ethan froze. He signaled the twins to stay still. From the dense foliage, a predator emerged. Its sleek body glistened with dark scales, and its glowing eyes locked onto them. The twins instinctively flinched, pressing close to Ethan. Ethan stepped forward slowly, his presence calm but firm. He whispered to the predator, his voice low and steady, using a tone of authority he had learned in the human military. The creature paused, assessing him, and then, surprisingly, retreated into the shadows. The twins' eyes widened in amazement. "You, see?" Ethan said gently, kneeling down. "We respect each other and we can avoid danger without fighting." The twins stayed close to him, absorbing every word, every gesture. Their respect for this human grew. He had not only protected them but had done so without using violence unnecessarily. showing them an unexpected strength. Compassion paired with courage. As evening approached, Ethan found a natural cave that could serve as a temporary shelter. He cleared a small area, making it safe for the twins to rest. He built a modest fire outside, just enough for warmth and light, without drawing too much attention. Serene and Mira watched him carefully, learning silently how humans create safety. In the wild, the night came quickly, the jungle sound shifted, the calls of nocturnal creatures filled the air and the temperature dropped. The twins hesitated at first, unsure about the darkness and the unfamiliar noises. Ethan sat beside them, speaking softly, explaining the night's rhythms and how to stay safe. Eventually, the twins curled up against him again. Their small bodies radiated warmth and trust. Ethan could feel their heartbeat against his chest, tiny yet steady. He knew he had earned their trust, but he also understood the responsibility it carried. Protecting them would not be easy. The Queen's search would intensify, and danger was never far in this jungle. In the distance, unknown to Ethan and the twins, small scout ships from the Queen's fleet skimmed the jungle canopy. Their sensors searched for unusual heat signatures, and their commanders were briefed on the missing daughters. Lyra herself had decided to lead the search personally, her resolve strengthened by fear and love. The tension between the human and the approaching alien forces began to rise, though neither Ethan nor the twins were aware of it yet. Ethan remained vigilant, keeping one eye on the jungle and the other on the twins. He understood that trust could be fragile, especially with beings so different from humans. Yet, there was a sense of hope, of connection, that went beyond fear. In his mind, he knew this bond could change not only the twins' lives, but also the relationship between their species and humanity. Throughout the night, Ethan whispered quiet reassurances. Seren and Mira clung to him, their small voices barely audible as they murmured comfort to each other. The jungle seemed less threatening with him nearby, and in that moment, under alien stars and the gentle glow of a small fire, an extraordinary bond was forming, a bond that would challenge assumptions, defy expectations, and reveal the incredible, courage found in unlikely friendships. As they drifted into sleep, Ethan allowed himself a moment to consider the coming days. He would need to teach them more, guide them through the dangers, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Queen's forces. But for now, he simply watched over them, feeling the weight and the wonder of this responsibility. The twins, curled up on the human's chest, were no longer just lost children of a powerful queen. They were pupils, companions, and participants in a story that would intertwine the fates of two worlds. And though the dangers ahead were unknown, one thing was clear. In this human, they had found an unexpected protector, and in them, he had discovered a bond stronger than fear, stronger than distance, stronger than the unknown itself. The jungle of Velaris was quieter than usual that morning, but the silence was deceptive. Ethan, moving carefully through the thick undergrowth, sensed the tension in the air. Even the birds and insects seemed subdued, as if they knew something was coming. Seren and Mira followed closely, their small hands gripping Ethan's, trusting him completely now. The twins had grown bolder since the last day. Seren climbed a small tree effortlessly, scanning the area ahead while Mira crouched, observing the ground for signs of danger. Ethan smiled at their progress. "Good work," he whispered. "Stay alert, but remember to stay together." Ethan knew their time in the jungle would not remain peaceful for long. The Queen's scouts were searching relentlessly, and the jungle itself held dangers the twins could not yet fully understand. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. They had adapted quickly, learning to move silently, to watch, to listen, and to trust in him. As they continued, Ethan's sharp eyes caught movement. Between the trees, a shimmer of light that did not belong to the natural flora. He stopped abruptly, signaling for the twins to freeze. Seren and Mira pressed against him instinctively, their large eyes wide. Ethan knelt low, using a broken branch to peek around a bend. Two Valerian scouts were passing through the underbrush, their sleek armor blending almost perfectly with the jungle. They moved cautiously, scanning for signs of the missing princesses. Ethan's mind worked quickly. He knew confrontation was dangerous. He needed to find a way to avoid detection while keeping the twins safe. "Follow me," he whispered. He guided the twins into a narrow side path, a small tunnel of vines and branches that concealed their presence. Serene led, Mira followed, and Ethan brought up the rear. They moved silently, each step calculated, until the scouts passed without noticing them. Once they were safely hidden, Ethan exhaled slowly. "That was close," he said. Serene gave him a small smile, showing a mix of relief and admiration. Mira leaned against him, silently acknowledging his protective skill. The twins were beginning to understand not just survival, but strategy. The journey continued for hours. Ethan guided them to a hidden waterfall, a place he knew few creatures ventured. The water cascaded into a clear pool, creating a soothing sound that masked other movements in the jungle. He set up a small area for rest, allowing the twins to wash and refresh themselves. Serene splashed water onto her face, giggling softly, while Mira carefully observed the surroundings before touching the water. Ethan watched them, realizing how small moments of normalcy could build trust and courage. They were far from the palace, yet in this secluded corner of the jungle, they began to feel the first sense of safety since they had vanished. But safety was temporary. High above, the Queen's scout ships traced the jungle's contours, their sensors scanning for heat signatures. They had picked up faint readings earlier, suggesting the princesses were in this region. Queen Lyra, aboard her flagship, leaned forward with intensity. Her piercing eyes scanned the data. "They are close," she said. Her voice was calm but deadly in its precision. "Send reinforcements. No one can prevent me from finding my daughters." Back in the jungle, Ethan sensed something was wrong before the twins did. The air grew tense, charged with an energy that made hair on his arms stand. He gathered Serene and Mira close. "Stay quiet. Stay low," he whispered. He scanned the trees and the sky, noting the subtle changes in light and shadow. The twins, though young, mirrored his movements. Serene crouched beside him. Mira pressed against his side, both alert to every rustle and shimmer. Ethan's military training merged with his protective instincts, creating a silent shield around the girls. Minutes passed, and suddenly, a scout ship hovered above the clearing. Its sensors swept the area, searching for heat or movement. Ethan held the twins still, even holding his breath as the ship's light scanned their hiding spot. Serene and Mira clutched his arms, their small bodies trembling with a mix of fear and anticipation. The ship moved on, but the message was clear. The Queen's forces were relentless. Ethan's mind raced. He knew they could not stay in one place too long. He had to find a safer location, one where the twins could rest without constant fear. He led them deeper into the jungle, relying on his memory and intuition. The terrain became more rugged. Thick roots, uneven rocks, and dense underbrush challenged every step. Yet the twins adapted quickly. Their small bodies climbed, leaped, and balanced with an agility that surprised even Ethan. As night approached, they reached a natural cave tucked into the side of a hill. It was a larger space than the last shelter, with high ceilings and dry ground. Ethan quickly checked the entrance, making sure no traces led directly to them. Serene and Mira watched, their eyes reflecting trust and a hint of admiration for his careful planning. Ethan set up a small fire just outside, keeping it low to avoid drawing attention. He offered the twins a few rations and some water, and they ate quietly, their energy returning after a long day. The twins were exhausted, but there was a new spark of confidence in their eyes. They had survived threats, adapted to danger, and trusted a human fully, a feat that few Valerian children could achieve. As the fire crackled, Ethan spoke softly, telling the twins about his life before the jungle, about the human colony, and about the world beyond this planet. Serene listened intently, her head tilted as she absorbed every word. Mira, though quiet, followed his gestures and expressions, understanding the essence of what he said without needing to comprehend every word. The night deepened, and the sounds of the jungle shifted. Distant predators called to each other, and the wind rustled through the trees carrying the scent of rain. Ethan lay down near the twins, letting them rest against him once again. They curled up, small bodies pressing against his chest, breathing, slowly and evenly. For a moment, Ethan allowed himself to relax, feeling the strength of this connection. He knew the Queen's search would intensify, that more scouts and ships were likely on their way, but he also understood something crucial. The twins were learning from him, and in them, he had discovered something extraordinary. Their bond was not just about protection, it was about trust, learning, and courage. Far away aboard her flagship, Queen Lyra's eyes narrowed. She could feel the distance closing, the gap between her daughters and herself. Yet, there was something unexpected, a sense of hesitation she could not place. The Queen's pride and anger pushed her forward, but a small part of her wondered why these human forces had not yet interfered with the search. Back in the jungle, Ethan's instincts told him the Queen's approach was imminent. He spoke quietly to the twins. "Tomorrow we move again. We need a safer place, higher ground, away from the patrols. Can you do that?" Seren nodded, her determination shining through. Mira, still cautious but confident in Ethan, nodded as, well, they understood that survival required cooperation, trust, and courage, all qualities they had seen in him. As they drifted to sleep, Ethan kept one eye open, scanning the cave entrance and the surrounding jungle. He knew the coming days would test all of them. Twice as much courage, intelligence, and resilience would be required. Yet, he felt a quiet hope. In these two small, extraordinary beings, he saw potential, not just for survival, but for a connection that could bridge worlds. The twins, curled against him, slept peacefully under the alien stars. For now, the jungle's dangers were held at bay by a combination of skill, trust, and careful planning. But the night carried the quiet tension of what was to come, the relentless pursuit of a mother who would not rest until her daughters were returned, and the strength of a human who would not abandon them no matter the cost. Tomorrow they would continue their journey, deeper into the unknown jungle. Tomorrow they would face new dangers, test their skills, and see how far trust could carry them. But for now, under the glow of the fire and the watchful silence of the jungle, a human and two extraordinary alien children shared a rare and fragile peace. A peace that, for the first time, felt like hope. And in that quiet night, a seed was planted. A seed of courage, of trust, and of an alliance that would challenge expectations, defy danger, and reveal the true strength of beings from two very different worlds. The sun rose over the jagged peaks of the Valaris jungle, sending streaks of golden light through the thick canopy. Ethan stirred the twins gently, careful not to startle them. "Time to move," he whispered. Serene and Mira blinked sleepily, stretching their small limbs but quickly obeyed. The cave, which had offered them a night of safety, could not protect them for long. Ethan scanned the horizon. From his vantage point, he could see the dense foliage, the twisted roots, and the faint glimmer of the streams that wound through the jungle. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every sound could indicate an approaching patrol. But Ethan felt a growing sense of confidence in their abilities. The twins were learning fast, and he trusted them more than ever. He led them carefully through, the trees using silent hand signals to direct their movements. Seren walked ahead, her sharp eyes noticing broken branches and slight shifts in the ground. Mira stayed close to Ethan, her hands gripping his as he guided them through the narrow passages. Their small bodies moved with surprising agility, slipping past obstacles that would have slowed an adult. Hours passed as they navigated the jungle. The heat pressed down, but the twins showed remarkable endurance. Ethan provided water sparingly, careful to conserve their supplies for the coming days. Occasionally, he would stop to teach them small survival skills, how to recognize safe plants, how to listen for approaching creatures, and how to move silently through dense foliage. By midday, they reached a plateau overlooking a small valley. From this height, Ethan could see the winding river and the distant shimmer of sunlight on the water. He allowed the twins a brief rest, letting them drink and eat some rations while he scanned the area. "This looks safe for now," he said, softly. Serene nodded, taking in the view while Mira leaned against him, tired but alert. Ethan knew it was temporary. The Queen's scouts were relentless, and it was only a matter of time before they discovered the twins' location. As if on cue, a shadow passed over the plateau. Ethan froze, scanning the sky. A scout drone hovered briefly, its sensors sweeping the area for heat signatures. He pulled the twins down behind a large rock. Seren pressed close to him, her small body trembling slightly. Mira's hands gripped, his arm, her eyes wide but trusting. The drone passed without detecting them, but the tension remained. Ethan exhaled slowly, careful not to betray his relief. "We can't stay here too long," he whispered. "We need to keep moving. The Queen's forces are close." The journey resumed. Ethan led them along a narrow ridge that twisted through the mountains, using natural rock formations for cover. The twins followed without complaint, their small hands gripping his whenever. The terrain became treacherous. As they moved, Ethan noticed signs that the Queen's army was nearby. Broken branches, footprints too large for the twins, and faint heat signatures suggested that patrols had passed through recently. He adjusted their route, leading them through hidden paths he had memorized from earlier scouting. By late afternoon, they reached a dense grove of bioluminescent plants. The glowing flora provided enough light for them to see without carrying a fire, reducing the risk of detection. Ethan allowed the twins to rest again, this time in a safer, more concealed area. While they rested, Ethan reflected on how far they had come. The twins had endured dangers that would have overwhelmed most beings. They had adapted quickly, learned to trust him completely, and were showing signs of intelligence and courage beyond their years. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel a quiet pride, but there was no time for comfort. As night approached, the distant hum of engines reached his ears. Queen Lyra's fleet was close, and the twins' time in this grove would be brief. Ethan gathered them once more, whispering instructions. "Stay close, stay quiet, and follow my lead. We are moving again." They moved through the grove, the bioluminescent light casting strange shadows across their path. Ethan guided them, carefully avoiding obvious trails and hidden sensors. Seren led when necessary, using her sharp eyes to spot potential dangers, while Mira stayed near him, alert and cautious. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the jungle. Ethan froze, instinctively shielding the twins behind him. The sound was followed by a rustling in the underbrush. He peered carefully and saw two figures approaching, Velaryon scouts, armed and alert. Ethan's mind raced. He had to act quickly. There was no room for error. He whispered, "Follow my instructions exactly, do not make a sound." Serene and Mira nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He moved forward cautiously, drawing the attention of the scouts while keeping the twins concealed. One scout stepped closer, scanning the area. Ethan remained perfectly still, his movements calculated. Then with a swift motion he grabbed a fallen branch and threw it into the bushes, creating a distraction. The scouts turned toward the sound, and Ethan seized the moment to guide the twins in the opposite direction. They ran quietly, using the shadows and the terrain to their advantage. The scouts shouted, realizing they had been tricked, but it was too late. Ethan led the twins into a hidden ravine, safe for the moment from immediate detection. Breathing heavily, he allowed them a brief pause. "Good job," he said softly. "You stayed calm, you followed instructions, and you helped me keep us safe." Serene smiled faintly, and Mira hugged him tightly, their trust and admiration clear. They continued through the night, navigating the difficult terrain with care. Ethan used his knowledge of the jungle to avoid patrols, setting small traps and markers to confuse any pursuers. The twins were quick learners, helping him identify safe paths and dangerous areas. As dawn approached, they reached a natural cliff overlooking a vast canyon. Ethan set up a temporary shelter, using rocks and vines to create a concealed space. The twins rested exhausted but safe, curled against his chest once more, Ethan's thoughts turned to the Queen. She would not stop, not until her daughters were found. Her determination was legendary, her resources nearly limitless. Yet, he also knew something crucial. These twins had something no one else had. They had learned trust, courage, and strategy. They had adapted to survival in ways that no ordinary beings could, and he had seen it firsthand. The bond between them was unbreakable. It was not just protection. It was partnership, understanding, and mutual respect. In a universe where humans were often underestimated, Ethan had shown the twins that strength came in many forms, and courage could be found in the most unexpected places. As the sun rose fully, Ethan gazed at the canyon below. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers and unknown challenges, but he felt a quiet confidence. They had survived this long, outsmarted scouts and evaded a relentless mother determined to reclaim her children. For now, the twins slept peacefully, unaware of the Queen's growing fury. Ethan stayed awake, keeping watch over them, thinking through the coming days. The journey was far from over. The Queen's forces would intensify their search. New challenges would emerge, and the twins' courage and intelligence would be tested in ways none of them could yet imagine. But one thing was certain. Together, they could face whatever came next. And in the quiet of the canyon under the light of a new day, Ethan and the two extraordinary alien children prepared for the next step in their journey. A journey that would test their strength, intelligence, and trust, and ultimately reveal the true power of courage and connection across worlds. The sun had risen fully over the jagged canyon, bathing the world in a warm, golden light. Ethan kept a careful watch as the twins slept, their small forms curled safely against him. Every muscle in his body remained tense, every sense alert. The Queen would not rest, and neither could he. Hours passed in tense silence. The twins stirred but remained quiet, sensing Ethan's vigilance. He whispered soft words of reassurance, stroking their hair and murmuring stories to distract them from the looming danger. Even in their sleep, their trust in him was absolute, their small hands clutching his shirt as if they could anchor themselves to his presence. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, the unmistakable sound of a ship descending. Ethan froze, scanning the canyon. A sleek, black vessel hovered above the cliffs, its surface reflecting the morning sun. Queen Lyra's ship. There was no mistake. This was her flagship. Its sensors were capable of detecting life forms even in the thickest foliage, even through stone. Ethan gathered the twins, whispering, "Stay calm. Stay close to me. I promise we'll get through this." Seren blinked up at him, determination flickering in her bright eyes. Mira's tiny hands gripped his arm, her small body trembling, but ready to follow. Ethan knew that if they were to survive, they had to act quickly and together. The Queen descended, her ship's landing creating a gust of wind that whipped through the canyon. Ethan led the twins behind a rock formation, hidden from immediate view, though not for long. He could see the Queen now, standing on the edge of the cliff, her tall frame imposing and regal, her eyes scanning the landscape with lethal precision. "Ethan," her voice boomed across the canyon, "I know you are here. Surrender the twins, and no harm will come to you." Ethan stood tall, his chest rising with confidence. "They are safe with me," he shouted back, "and they are not yours to command." The Queen's eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line. She took a step forward, her soldiers moving behind her, a wave of glistening armor and energy weapons at the ready. But Ethan was not afraid. He had faced danger before, and he had trained the twins well. "Run," he whispered urgently to the twins. Serene and Mira responded instantly, moving quickly along the narrow ledges and rocky paths Ethan had scouted earlier. They were small, fast and agile, slipping through spaces that even the Queen's soldiers could not reach. Ethan followed, covering their retreat with precise movements. He used the terrain to his advantage, drawing the Queen's forces into difficult positions. Small boulders tumbled down cliffs, creating obstacles, while fallen branches and natural traps slowed the advance of their pursuers. The twins led him toward a hidden ravine, one that opened into a vast network of caves. Ethan had discovered this place during his earlier scouting, and now it served as their only hope. Seren scouted ahead, her sharp eyes spotting danger and leading them through safe passages. Mira stayed close, her hands gripping his, trusting him completely. As they entered the cave, Ethan paused. The queen was not far behind. He turned to face her, placing himself between her and the twins. "Enough!" he shouted. "You have your strength, but these children have their own. They are not pawns. They are brave, intelligent, and capable. If you want them, you must prove you are worthy, not demand it." The queen's eyes flickered, a mixture of fury and surprise. No human had ever spoken to her this way. Her daughter's life was at stake, yet here was a mortal standing firm, challenging her authority. She studied him closely, noticing the unwavering determination, the careful strategy, the protective instinct that radiated from him. Ethan took a deep breath. "I will not fight you unless I must," he said. "But I will protect these twins. Whatever you try, whatever you command, I will not let them be harmed." For a moment there was silence. The queen's soldiers shifted uneasily. Then, with a swift motion, the queen activated her ship's energy barriers, creating a narrow path that cut off all exits except the one leading to her. She approached Ethan, her every step deliberate, controlled, and deadly. "You are bold, human," she said softly, almost in admiration. "But boldness will not save you. These are my children, and I will have them." Ethan met her gaze evenly. "If they are your children, you will understand what I mean when I say they deserve choice, courage, and safety. You cannot take them by force. If you do, you risk everything, your fleet, your soldiers, your honor, and I will make sure you understand that." The queen's expression changed. Something in her eyes softened, a flicker of realization that perhaps this human was different. Perhaps he was not like the others she had faced. And then, without warning, the twins emerged from the cave's shadows. Seren stepped forward, her small voice clear and firm. "Mother," she said, "we are not afraid. We trust him. He protects us. You taught us to be brave, and now we choose." Mira's voice followed, trembling but confident. "We want to stay with him, at least for now. We know he keeps us safe." Ethan watched, his heart swelling with pride. The twins' bravery and intelligence had changed the dynamic completely. The queen froze, her mind racing. She had raised her daughters to be fearless, but she had never expected them to make a choice against her command. For a long moment, the canyon was silent. The only sound was the wind through the cliffs and the quiet breathing of the twins. Then the queen spoke, her voice softer than before. You have learned well," she said. "Perhaps more than I thought. I see now that courage is not bound by size or species. You have protected them, and in doing so you have earned my respect." Ethan nodded, relieved but still wary. "I only want them safe," he said, "and to teach them what it means to be brave, to make choices, and to trust those who protect them." The queen studied him for a moment longer. Then, with a deep breath, she signaled her soldiers to stand down. "You have won this moment, human," she said. "But know this. My eyes will always watch you, and my respect must be earned every day. These children are precious to me, and I will not forget how you have protected them." Serene and Mira ran into Ethan's arms, wrapping themselves around him tightly. For the first time, he allowed himself to relax, feeling the weight of fear lift. The queen watched quietly, her expression a mixture of pride and maternal concern. Hours later, Ethan led the twins back to a safer area within the canyon, a place hidden even from the queen's ship sensors. The twins were tired but exhilarated, their small hands still holding his. He sat with them under the canopy, sharing a quiet meal, their bond stronger than ever. "You were amazing today," Ethan said softly. "You both showed courage, intelligence, and trust. You've learned well." Serene smiled, her eyes shining. "We couldn't have done it without you," she said. Mira nodded vigorously, her small face filled with admiration. Ethan held them close, feeling the enormity of what they had survived. The journey was far from over, but they had won an incredible victory. They had survived the Queen's relentless pursuit, outsmarted her soldiers, and earned a measure of respect from the most powerful being they had ever faced. As the sun set, over the canyon casting long shadows and bathing the world in amber light, Ethan looked at the twins. They had faced unimaginable danger, yet their spirits remained unbroken. He realized that in protecting them, he had also discovered something extraordinary about himself: the true depth of courage, the strength of trust, and the power of connection between beings, no matter how different. And in that quiet moment, with the twins curled against his chest, Ethan knew that they were more than just survivors. They were a team, a family forged in the fire of danger and trust. And together they could face whatever the universe had in store, with courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable bond. The stars began to appear in the sky, twinkling above the canyon. Ethan held the twins close, whispering promises of safety, of adventure, and of freedom. For the first time since their journey began, they were truly at peace. Queen Lyra's ship lingered in the distance, a silent acknowledgement of respect and understanding. She had been challenged, and in doing so, she had discovered something she had not expected. The human's strength was not just in his skill or strategy, but in his heart. And so, under the vast sky, the human and the twins prepared for the next chapter of their journey, one filled with adventure, trust, and the extraordinary bond between worlds.